This is your Week 5 jury charge. For those of you who took the performance challenge live in the classroom, this is not the performance challenge that you took. Please go to the summer session Week 5 and you'll find a reading there that will match the performance challenge that you took. We apologize for the mix-up. This is for the online performance challenges. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have now heard all of the witnesses in this case, had an opportunity to examine the exhibits, and hear the closing arguments from the attorneys, period. It is now my responsibility to explain to you the law as it applies to this case, period, paragraph. You are the sole and exclusive judges of the facts in this trial, period. In a trial such as this, there are, in effect, two judges, period. You, the members of the jury panel, are the judges of the facts, and I am the judge of the law, period. There is a very important distinction to be drawn there, period. I cannot tell you what the facts are in the case before you, and you cannot dictate what the law is that governs this case, period, paragraph. As the judge of the law, it has been my duty to rule on the admissibility of certain pieces of evidence, period. I have also had to make rulings on whether or not certain questions from the lawyers were in accordance with the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure, period. You should not infer from any of my rulings that I have an opinion about which side should win in this case, period. That is for you and you alone to determine, period, paragraph. There were also times when I did not allow certain pieces of evidence to be introduced, period. Again, there are extremely strict and defined rules that I must follow as the judge of the law in this case, period, paragraph. You must accept these rules of law as I explain them to you, period. You cannot substitute your own version of what you think the law is or ought to be, period. Listen carefully to the law as I give it to you, and then apply that law to the facts as you determine them, period. I told all of you, let me start that sentence again. I know all of you have watched movies or television programs depicting court cases and may have some notion of what the law is, but you must rely solely on the law as I instruct you in these charges, period, paragraph. First of all, you have taken a solemn oath as jury members to determine your verdict only upon the facts in the case, Therefore, bias, sympathy, and prejudice should play no part in your decision-making process, period. It is only human nature to feel sympathy for someone who has fallen on hard times, period. But you must set aside any of these feelings and view the facts of the case in light of the laws that are applicable, period, paragraph. It is important for you to recall that the only things you should review in trying to reach a verdict in this case are the words of the witnesses you have now heard here in this room, comma, the exhibits which I allowed into the trial, comma, any testimony given by deposition, comma, and the stipulations of the lawyers, period. Knowledge that you may have learned about this case through the media or through talk you have overheard, or knowledge you might have gained about this case from outside this courtroom are not to be reviewed by you as evidence, period, paragraph. As members of the jury, comma, it is your duty to decide the credibility of the witnesses that have testified on the witness stand, period. You are the judges of the credibility of the witnesses and how much weight you will give to their testimony, period, paragraph. In deciding which witnesses you will believe and which witnesses you will not believe, comma, you may take into consideration the manner and demeanor they have shown while speaking on the witness stand, semicolon, any display of bias, comma, prejudice, comma, or pity for or against one side or the other, semicolon, each witness's chance to have observed the facts about which he or she testifies, semicolon, and any interest they may have in the outcome of this case, period. You may also review any prior inconsistent statements the witness may have made or any false statements made by the witness about a material fact of the case, period, paragraph. Now, comma, when any two people witness an incident, comma, you will often get different versions of what happened, period. It is not always a fact that one side or the other is lying, but, comma, rather, comma, that people will see things and remember things differently, period. This is merely human nature, period. Try to reconcile these different versions, comma, if you can, comma, in light of all the other facts in the case, period, paragraph. If you feel, comma, though, comma, that a witness has deliberately testified falsely to a material fact in the case, comma, then it is within your rights to ignore that witness's words entirely, period. Now, comma, you do not have to totally ignore his or her testimony, period. You may believe some of the testimony but not all, semicolon, or you may, comma, as I said before, comma, ignore this testimony in its entirety, period, paragraph. The fact that the defendant has taken this stand here and testified before you does not mean that you should ignore his testimony just because he is the defendant, period. His words should be considered just as you would consider the words of any other interested witness in this case, comma, since the defendant is an interested witness, period. He is certainly interested in the outcome of the trial, comma, but that does not mean that you should assume that just because he is interested that he would lie on the witness stand, period, paragraph. You have also heard from what is called an, quote, expert witness, end quote, in this case, period. An expert witness is a person whose training, comma, education, comma, and experience in some field, art, or science qualifies them to give opinion testimony, period. Often, comma, a witness is just allowed to state facts about which he or she has real knowledge and are not allowed to state their opinion about the facts, period. An expert witness is an exception to this rule, period, paragraph. Just because a witness has been accepted by this court as an expert does not mean that you should give his testimony any greater weight than that of any other witness in the case, period. His opinions must still be proved to you when taken in the light of all the other evidence and facts in the case, period, paragraph. Ladies and gentlemen, comma, we will now take a short recess and resume with my charge in about 10 minutes, period. Please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves during the break, period, paragraph. I request that you refrain from any discussion so that you will have heard all of my instructions to you before attempting to reach a verdict in the case at hand, period. So please do not discuss the case with anyone, comma, including other jurors or anyone else, comma, for that matter, period, paragraph.